extra butter at home. Speaking of homes, we should have left. You know, it's a sentiment that could be said about any horror movie ever, and it's the best title ever. We'll be talking to Kevin Bacon when he stops by about that, so don't leave. Also, I reconnect with my old colleague, Jon Stewart, home to home, to talk about his reconnecting with his old colleague, Steve Carell. They have an awesome new movie. It's Irresistible. That's its name, and also, it's irresistible. Also, Geeks Unite! It's the greatest movie show ever, called The Great Debate. Baron Vaughn, you know him from Kimmel, Conan, Fallon, joins me in just seconds on this Extra Butter! Hey, welcome back to Extra Butter. Hope you had a great week. Before I forget, and trust me, I will forget, be sure and like and subscribe Extra Butter on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, I hope you liked and subscribed. And also a big shout out to the men and women all over the world watching on AFN in 168 different countries and territories worldwide. You are taking care of America, keeping us safe, and for that, I thank you for your service. And thanks for liking and subscribing. And to the rest of you, hi, how are you? All right, let's talk about movies. Before we talk about movies, have I reminded you that this show has won 3 Emmy Awards? And you're probably saying, wow, that guy is insecure or what? Maybe a little bit, because I'm about to pimp another movie show. Technically, it's not a movie show, but it's a great debate show called The Great Debate. You're largely debating about movies, whether they're the Marvel Universe or the Star Wars Universe, or maybe even TV like Game of Thrones or Walking Dead. Case in point, debate this. Who would make a better boss, the Joker or Darth Vader? And go. That's what you get with this show. It's hosted by this guy that I love. His name is Baron Vaughn. Extraordinary stand-up comedian and comedic actor. You've probably seen him on Kimmel, Conan, Fallon. He's everywhere. Speaking of everywhere, he's right here, right now. Actually, I'll start with the really tough question, sir. Where are you and how are you?
Fantastic double question, Mark. I'm good, and I am in Los Angeles, California, in front of my bookcase. Books, the original open tabs. Am I right?
Amen. And those first 2 questions, that's pretty much all I got. So thank you very much. Thanks for letting me...
I somehow doubt that that's true.
Okay, I got a couple other things. I love this show. Why? The reason why, because I feel like it was created for me. Are you getting that from a lot of people?
Fortunately, a lot of people. You know, and I've been getting... You know, the commercials are out there. We've been posting on the social medias. I've been getting a lot of good feedback from fans, but also from like friends of mine, you know, who are like, hey, this looks great. So I'm always happy to be involved in anything that's bringing people joy. Well, let's talk about joy. What brings you joy? What do you most geek out about when it comes to these debates? Is there one that really, really gets you going? Is there a topic that especially gets me going? Yeah, I think that, you know, obviously there's a lot of people in this country who don't think that politics belongs in science fiction or fantasy. And I believe that the point of science fiction and fantasy is political.
I say it all the time. You're right.
These are worlds that get made to be able to test ideas. So it's always been very hilarious and hard for me to agree with people who go like, hey, get your politics out of Star Wars when it's a movie about a revolution against an empire.
I say this all the time. You're awesome. I'll watch it. I love you.
Back at you.
There you go. That's Baron Vaughn, and you got to check out the show. It is truly amazing. The show is called The Great Debate because it is a great debate. All right. I'm geeked out about that movie show. Keep watching this movie show. Want to know why? It is another awesome horror movie from the Blum house. You know, if Jason Blum brings it, it's going to be great. This one stars Amanda Seyfried, stars Kevin Bacon, and a remarkable young co-star. In fact, I'll talk with Kevin Bacon about that next. Hey, welcome back to Extra Butter. Thanks for hanging out. I'm so excited about this new movie. It's brought to you by one of my favorite scary suspense thriller movie producers, Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions. You know, if his name's attached to it and it starts with that creepy Blumhouse logo at the beginning, it's going to be creepy or it's going to be suspenseful. In this case, it's a little bit of both. I had a chance to sit down with Kevin Bacon. Now, normally I would have just talked about Amanda Seyfried because I think she's amazing, but their even younger co-star turns the performance of the movie. We talked about that. Take a look. I was taken to a concert of yours, had no idea what to expect, and I've just got to say, musically, you are so gifted.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Not a slight to your acting, since we're here to talk about you taken either one permanently, the world would have been a better place. So love what you do.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks.
You seem to be someone who's relatively choosy with the roles that he takes. And I've just got to say, I'm so glad you took this movie. I just want to talk about, how did they present that to you? How did this come up?
Well, what happened was I did a movie with the writer-director David Koepp 20 years ago. And ever since they called rap on that movie, it was called Stir of Echoes. I had been, kind of pounding the table with Dave to do something like that again. And it took a really long time, but I finally wore him down. And this was an idea that we had been actually knocking around for some time. And the wheels started turning one day, and he just wrote the script on spec. And we took it to Blumhouse, and Jason Blum said, "Don't make this movie with anybody else other than us." And all of a sudden, we found ourselves in Wales shooting.
Often they say, don't work with kids, like the old school. Don't work with kids, don't work with animals. But I've got to say, your younger co-star here, who has no obligations to be anything other than a kid, crushes every scene that she's in.
She's really fantastic, and thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, Avery Essex is her name, and she'd never done a movie before. She's maybe some commercials or a little bit of television, but she was not only kind of amazing in every scene, to the point where David and I were looking at each other like, after he says cut, we're just like, wow, that was incredible. But she also has a real hunger for understanding acting, and was always asking questions of me and Amanda. How do you do that? How do you do that?
Right.
I think she's going to be around for the long haul.
And you mentioned your other co-star, Amanda. In horror movies, I, for one, don't expect tremendous acting. Certainly there's tremendous acting. I can name a lot of horror movies that made people famous for their acting, but you don't necessarily expect it. The two of you have remarkable on-screen dynamic. Like, I'd like to see you do a dozen movies with her.
Well, I think she's great. And not only is she a great actress, she's also, we're so grateful that she was willing to, pack up her family and come to Wales and take this ride with us. When David Koepp and I went and had coffee with her with our hat and our hearts in our hands, going, "Would you please consider doing this part in this horror movie with us?" The fact that she said yes, we were both kind of looking at each other like, how did that happen? And I think she absolutely crushed it.
It's brilliant. And I've got to say, for times, I like to see horror movies in theaters with audiences. However, this movie, I think there's something that it leans into, being home, isolated, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, that we don't really have a choice right now. So I would say, when it comes to this movie, wait till it gets dark, turn out the lights, put your phone on vibrate, get some popcorn, turn the sound up, and just go for the ride. And good luck sleeping that night.
All right, so I put it out on social media, people that might have questions for you. Someone put one up, and then every subsequent person that posted said, yeah, I asked that question. I normally don't ask personal questions, but they say, ask Kevin if he considers turkey bacon to be real bacon. What say you?
Wow, I don't really know how. Yes, I'll say yes. Why not?
All right, the verdict is in.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this movie. All kinds of movies are needed right now to give us a little bit of a distraction, and this one's tremendous.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the exact same look he gave when I asked that viewer question about bacon. By the way, if you have brilliant viewer questions like, is turkey bacon bacon? Please let me know on YouTube comments, on my Facebook, anywhere you can find Extra Butter TV. Leave the comments. We'll pass them on to the celebrities when we talk to them. Again, I highly recommend this movie. It's been out about a week. It is the most streamed horror suspense thriller right now for good reasons, and I recommend it. Speaking of which, there's another Jason Blumhouse movie on the way. When we come back, the very last big theatrical suspense thriller now is yours on Blu-ray and home video. It's crushing it. I've checked out the extras. Why you should hunt The Hunt when we come back. Hey, welcome to Extra Butter and a movie show about movies, which is why I geek out when there's one I especially love. You've heard me make a lot of noise about The Hunt. Long before this movie came out, I said, this is the most controversial movie ever made. Look, I even crack my voice and get nervous talking about it. Why is it controversial? It's funny. While this movie was being made, the script was leaked, and liberals said it's making fun of us. It's taking a slam against us. And conservatives said it's making fun of us. It's taking a slam against us. Truth be told, this movie brilliantly crosses back and forth and usually plays it right down the middle. It's not preachy in any way, though it is a little violent. Think kind of third act Quentin Tarantino movie violent, if you will. It's a little Kill Bill-ish, if you know what I'm saying. Speaking of which, not since Uma Thurman in Kill Bill have I seen a vigilante performance like this from Patty Gilpin. She is brilliant in it. Hilary Swank too, but for the most part, I'd like you to forget that she's even in this movie because it's a bit of a surprise. Jason Blum and Ikey Barinholtz. You might know Ikey Barinholtz. He's been in a lot of comedies. Just seeing this guy makes me laugh. Although this makes me sad because it was the very last time I sat down with these guys, and you could tell for the first time ever, we're debating, do we hug? Do we shake hands? It's the first time we thought maybe it's not a good idea for us to be making contact. All right, forget about that sad stuff. Didn't mean to burst the bubble. Just take a look at the brilliance.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Welcome.
Too.
Here we are now.
Here we are.
When are you going to make a movie about that?
Very soon.
It's coming.
Very soon.
Yeah, no
soon.
kidding.
I might leave that to him.
All right. You guys, have you noticed people kind of charging into the room with a lot of energy having just seen this movie?
Yes, we like that.
This movie is going to be sliced, diced, and discussed for generations to come.
I love that.
You've gone and done it.
Good.
You made it.
Good. This is exciting.
What I love about this, because I have friends on the right and left, and so having not seen this movie, they all think it's going to be something. And after they see it, they're both going to flip their opinions of the movie.
Yes.
How do you make a movie so brilliantly straight down the middle?
Well, I think it helped to have Damon and Craig and Nick all were the creative group behind the movie. I think they did a terrific job in kind of poking fun at both sides equally, and that's what the movie's about.
And if you jump into characters, like easily these could have been like very one-dimensional stereotypes, and I love that like you've elevated it, like the snapshot of you the moment we see you.
You get it all. It all makes sense. That was really, again, Craig Zobel, the director, really encouraged us not to like be characteristic. You know what I mean? Characteristic, right? And to really try to like find some empathy for these people who I might not agree with in real life, and just to kind of keep the audience wobbly the whole time. We're rooting for them. Should we be rooting for them? Yes, we should be rooting for them. I can't believe I rooted for him. I think that's a very difficult ballet to do, and Craig did it very well.
It's so funny. I heard people walking out going, "Hey, you know who I really liked in this movie? Wait, no, I can't like that person."
Yes,
so
that's what you want, though.
Well, that works. That means we did our
Yes,
job.
yes.
There's so much I want to discuss in this movie, but like all of that aside, like there's so many twists and turns in this movie, I can't even like tap dance around it.
No,
like I want to go, hey, when your character does the thing in the deal, I can't say any of this stuff.
I can't. It's too spoilery.
I know how hard it is, what a miracle it is to get a movie made. So I never come in with complaints, but next time, could there be more blood?
We'll work on that. I'll work on that for you. We'll work on that for you.
With that said, are you finding yourself like days after you've wrapped, finding like blood in places that you didn't know you had?
I had to like fly home 2 days later, and I'm at TSA, and the guy's looking at me, and I'm like, he goes, "You okay?" And I had like a whole like caked red blood still behind my head. I was like, "Oh yeah, I was doing a Blumhouse movie." He goes, "Oh, they shoot a lot of those down here."
I'm wondering, were you the type that like you'd go to see the film and you were worried about your mark or looking at the lighting, and in this, your character needs to be under duress the whole time, so you're not worried about any of that stuff?
I was really excited to be able to play high stakes. You know, in theater school, you play kings and queens and warriors, and you do Shakespeare, and everything is really high stakes. And then I think my first audition out of school was for Gossip Girl, where they wanted vocal fry whisper and squishy questions. And
as a fan of Gossip Girl, I'm personally offended. The stakes couldn't be higher. They couldn't be higher.
Do not besmirch his favorite show.
Come on.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said
Watch it.
But so playing this character who is undergoing apocalyptic stakes, I was like, yay, finally.
Yeah, right.
Everything I've trained for.
I can't wait till people see it. I've never had a movie. I've been doing this all my life. I've never had a movie so turbocharged with friends and family that are on both sides going, "Hey, so what's to do with this movie?" And my boss is saying, we need to talk to you about your coverage of this movie. Once they see it and realize what it is, it's so not what you think it might be.
Yes.
We keep saying the same thing.
Yes, yeah. And I also think it's a movie that people on both sides of your family politically can come to together and kind of laugh at each other and themselves.
You start rooting on the things you might not necessarily be rooting for and questioning your own motives.
Yes.
Ironically, one of the most jolting movies I've seen in a long time. Makes people kind of want to give each other a hug at the end of it, saying, hey, we're kind of all guilty here, aren't we?
That's right.
It's ironic that you say that, but I think that the message of the movie is the further apart we become, the more dangerous that space is. And as much as everyone in our country, I think, agrees that these are divided times, I don't think anybody wants them to be divided. I mean, we are programmed as humans to find one another and achieve like some level of peace and kindness. Nobody wants to be at war, especially with members of their own family. And so I do think that this movie is a safe space, believe it or not, to use a liberal phrase, for people of all different ideologies to come together and laugh at themselves and each other. And then if they want to, have a conversation, and if not, go have a meal afterwards.
This movie is so good, and I highly recommend you check out The Hunt on Blu-ray and DVD. Yes, I'm talking about you, because there are all kinds of extras, and that end scene, well, I'm going to pretend like you haven't seen it. There's a great end scene, and it's expanded if you get the Blu-ray and DVD. All right, when we come back, shifting gears on Extra Butter to comedy. Steve Carell stars in a Jon Stewart written by and directed by masterpiece. Irresistible is irresistible. Jon Stewart tells us why next.
Can I be completely honest with you? No bull.
Be nice. My daughter's here.
That was your daughter with her arm up the cow?
Guys like me don't know how to talk to guys like you.
Do you have a bottle opener?
No, it's just a twist.
Oh,
twist off?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe he does need a bottle.
Maybe use your vest.
But I would like to offer my services.
Could we quiet the cows, please?
To help you run for mayor of Deerlocking.
And if you could get some of them to face front.
Oh my God.
Hey, welcome back to the fleeting final moments of this Extra Butter. I'm kind of sad. I've been saving the best for last. I don't want it to be over because it's one of my favorite movies. It's now streaming everywhere. It is Irresistible, written by Jon Stewart, directed by Jon Stewart, and it's a reunion of sorts with his Daily Show correspondent, Steve Carell. And it's also a reunion of me and Jon Stewart. I'll tell you why. Reason being, I used to have a show on Comedy Central called Short Attention Span Theater. The reason I had that show? Because this young lad, Jon Stewart, abandoned the post to go do a show on MTV. Later, I had him back on the show to talk about it. In the meantime, we caught up, we reminisced. I showed this photo that was a screen grab from an actual broadcast, and it caused some drama. Take a look.
Mark, I got to tell you something. You're the first person dressed nicely that I have seen today. And I'm the only thing I can hope is you're not wearing pants.
You know what? And I hate to say it's cliche because you shouldn't have to wear pants at home, but I wore pants just because I thought to not wear pants would be something you would predict. But I'm not wearing a belt.
Oh my God. And they match. You're wearing matching pants.
Hey, John,
that's even better.
Members of a very elite, very small club. I don't expect you to remember. That's why I brought show and tell. You and I are among the people that can say they hosted Short Attention Span Theater on Comedy Central.
What?
Look at that kid.
Oh my God. Where did you get that picture? Oh my God.
I just Googled it. They're everywhere. You can't erase history.
Wow. Here's what's great about that. That's the picture of Short Attention Span Theater. Here's how popular I was back then. They spelled my name wrong.
No. Oh, no. Your own network's Chiron got it wrong. Well, thankfully you came back. That is the exact studio where you first started The Daily Show with our friend Liz Winstead. And you got it right after that.
Yeah. How crazy is that?
Well, congratulations on segueing into this new career. Having a chance to direct and produce a couple of features myself, I know something that's unique about this. Were you amazed on your first feature when you got to set how much you knew that was applicable to it, and at the same time, how much you didn't know? Like, it's never what you expect. Am I right?
No question. I mean, I think obviously having worked, in television for a long time prepared me for, but I worked in a studio for 16 years where you can kind of rub off all the rough edges of production so that your day is the most efficient, that it can be. This is going to be a real lesson in improvisational. Try and maintain your purpose, but boy, you're going to have to be flexible in terms of like process and what's working.
Yeah, I would guess stand-up comedy and improv, as a director, you need to stay nimble, and it sure helps you with those skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
This movie is great on so many different levels. I love the reunion of creativity with you and Steve. And I love that this movie says so much without preaching it, and it makes you laugh. What do you hope to accomplish at the end of the day with it?
I mean, I think, not much. It's a movie, so the hope that you accomplish is that people enjoy it, that they think it's funny. And then maybe at the moment, the trick of the movie is you kind of want people to really immerse themselves in the movie they think they're watching, so that when the movie that they're really watching kind of becomes apparent, you can have a moment of like, yeah, why do we accept the system as it exists? Why do we? Because it's so corrosive to what its purpose should be. And, that sort of media and political industrial complex creates such a never-ending whirlpool that we can't get out of. So it's sort of like I spent 16 years talking about the weather, and maybe this movie's talking about the climate. And that's kind of the
spoonful of sugar, as it were.
Yeah, always.
So they got the last name right, but it's the H. Get the H out of here. Patty Rossborough, by the way, went on maternity leave right after this photo was taken. She's now back doing stand-up comedy, so check her out. When the world opens up and you hit a comedy club, check out Patty Rossborough if you can. That's it for this week's Extra Butter. Hey, you've been doing a really good job keeping the world safe, so keep doing what you're doing to make those safe measures. I washed my hands 12 times just during the making of this show. Have a good one. Be sure and like and subscribe Extra Butter on YouTube, and more importantly, be good to each other. Love you. Talk to you next time. See ya. Are credits still rolling? Credits are still rolling, and I don't have anybody to talk to. So I'm just going to sit here and look nervous for a few minutes until you hear that last pop.